Welcome to Fridays with Friends, the Friday episode of UnPerfect, where I get to pick the brains of some amazing new and old friends here on the podcast. I'm your host, Shelly Sneed, and today in episode number 67, I'm continuing my fun yet deep conversation with my husband, Art, and James and Susan Andrews, a couple we've known and been in community with for over 25 years. The author H. Jackson Brown Jr., who wrote Life's Little Instruction Book, once said, "Remember that creating a successful marriage is like farming. You have to start over again every morning." And that is so very true. You start over and you just keep on showing up. If you missed part one of our conversation, go back and listen to episode number 65. We laughed a lot, but we also talked through what made us stay in the fight. Today, we're going to continue our honest look at appreciating our differences in each other, navigating conflict, keeping romance alive, and finding hope for marriage in biblical community. So, listen in.
We mentioned earlier that I am very emotional, and he's a nice straight line, and of course that would drive me crazy. And there, even recently, we had a thing where I was like getting worked up, mad about somebody doing something, and he was like, "Well, what's the big deal?" I'm like, "Why don't you get angry? You should get angry with me." What if he did? That would have been horrible. And like Art said, if I were married to myself or someone just like me, what a disaster! There would have been bloodshed at some point. So I am very grateful for that. Overall, I'm very grateful for that.
And I echo that. I mean, that's mine with Susan, is just the emotions. As I see it as a weakness of, wow, you get angry really quickly. But the beautiful thing is she gets joyful really quickly. A cup of hot chocolate, she'll dance like the schoolgirl, and she just is so excited. And this little thing she saw, and this little thing she smelled, and this person, she brings great joy to my life and highlighting the small things, whereas I, in my greatness of stability, miss those things or don't stop to appreciate those, charging on to the next dragon to slay. And I miss the small days, and to see her so excited about simple things and a breakfast or a lunch with the Sneeds, she's just dancing around.
Well, who wouldn't?
Who wouldn't? That's right. That's fair. But just her joy, just her zest for life, I would say.
So let's talk about how we deal with conflict. And just out of curiosity, how has your way of dealing with conflict changed over time? And I'm hoping it's changed for the better.
Right. I think so. I'll start. When we first got married, he wanted to talk everything to death. And I had grown up where you could just kind of snarl at each other and snap, and then you just move on and kind of forget it happened, unless it's like a major deal. And so that became a real sticking point for me. There were nights where he just talked at me, and I would just sit there and try to go to a happy place in my head. It was really bad. And I did not express any of my feelings or thoughts or hurts or whatever it might be until I blew up, and then it was very nasty. And then there was silence for days or whatever. So one thing, and this came partly from counseling too, is just the ability to say right before it becomes a huge issue, "Hey, we got to talk. That hurt my feelings," or I can't do this. I think your expectations are this or mine or that, whatever it is, to talk about it sooner, to go ahead and say what I'm thinking or what hurt me or why, instead of A, assuming he's going to figure it out, or B, giving him the cold shoulder because he didn't figure it out. You know what I mean? And so to take some ownership of, I have to say what it is I need or want if I ever expect there to be something good.
Yeah, that's true. Very good.
For me, obviously, scripture that sometimes I can use as a weapon and not a mirror. But don't let the sun go down on your anger, and there's great truth in that. But don't go down on your anger. Not that everything has to be resolved. And so that's where Sue's talking about. We're not going to bed till we resolve this, or till and so and that just wasn't possible. Same as you had said. Art needs to process. You want to impulsively. I just want to move on, forgive, and let's get over it. And Susan has to process a little while. So that took me a long time to just go, why would we ever go to bed frustrated? Let's finish this. And she had checked out minutes or hours ago. And so that took a long time for me to go, you know what, that's fine. Let her process it, and then we can come back in a day or so and actually discuss it. But try not to go to bed angry, and just saying, hey, we disagree on this. We're having trouble communicating here. Here, pray about it. Can we talk about it? I love you. I just don't understand.
We're still on the same team.
We're still on the same team. We're fighting the same battle. But can you come back to me when you're ready in a day or two? And that was a game changer for us.
I'm not good at this in the moment, but to remember that there is an enemy, and it's not James.
That's true. It's very good.
Yeah, I think changing how we've dealt with conflict over time, the two things I thought of are related to time. Like, I don't know that I could have done these things well early on. One of them is just there have been some times in the later part of our marriage where we've been able to look at each other and say, okay, we're really mad right now. We're not sure what the path is through this, but we know we're okay. Like, we're okay. You and I are okay. We're going to be okay. And we're going to figure it out. And so I think that's been helpful. And maybe that's been helpful for us to do what Andrew just talked about and to kind of step away from it for a little bit to be able to come back. And then the other is just looking back, and I am much more cognizant now of how often I've been wrong in the past. Like,
stop it, Art.
I know, and when I talked about Shelly being, she's always sure, and there have been so many times in our marriage, whether it was parenting, whether it was something you had done, and I assumed a motive, that I was just sure I knew the story, and I knew what should have been different, and I just knew it. And I still feel that way a lot, but at least now I also know that there's a track record there of where I knew a lot of things that weren't true. So that, I think that helps me a little bit with that.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's interesting. I think Art and I are both emotional people, I would say, but I'm more like James. I want to talk it out. Like, how can we go to bed if we're still mad at each other? I'm gonna. There were nights he would be snoring, and I'm like, how did he go to sleep? Like, what? Like, I'm gonna be up all night worrying about how did he even go to sleep? But the other thing, and this was more on me, was I just expected him to know I was upset and sad, and I was waiting for him to notice. And I don't, maybe it's a guy thing, maybe everybody's different, but that makes no sense to me now. I'm like, I need to tell him how I'm feeling, because he doesn't know. For the most part, he doesn't know that tone of voice hurt me, or he doesn't know I'm feeling this way or whatever. And so I've had to learn how to communicate how I'm feeling and do it in a way that's not, like Susan said, exploding or whatever. But I just think communication has been the hardest thing for us. And again, maybe it goes back to we're two different people. It's kind of crazy how God created this to work. And when it works well, it's amazing. And it's beautiful, and it's fun, and it's exciting. And when we're not working the way, going back to what James said, we're not in tune with the Spirit. Yeah, it doesn't work. It does not work.
Something that we say to couples in the class that we teach is you don't drift towards each other. That does take work. You don't drift towards a strong, committed relationship. You drift away. That's what happens if you don't work to pull it together.
Absolutely. And I've heard the same thing about our relationship with God. Like, if you're just floating, you're floating the other way. That is so true. So for fun here, how do you keep romance and fun alive in your marriage? Keep it PG.
Right.
Keep it clean.
Right.
Get the kids off to college.
Yes, that's right.
I guess we'll get there. Sorry, I weren't there. Most aren't. But and it's a segue into another question you not necessarily asked, but how did we make through some of the harder times? And that was date night for us. And date night actually was Wednesday lunch.
Yeah.
It wasn't a night because we could do it when the kids were in school. And so just for me putting Susan on my calendar. And so I felt like I was always there, and we can always talk and we're together all the time. But to actually say, hey, Wednesday from 12 to 1:30 is your time.
Eye to eye.
And that allowed us, and we'd say, hey, we can't talk about the kids. We can't talk about this. Can't talk about the finances. It's just, man, we got to reconnect. Who are you? What are your feelings? What's going on? All those things. And so weren't always great, the dates, but that allowed us to continue to know each other personally, which obviously affects romance and time. And so that was by far, and for years I'd say, I just can't do it. My schedule, I cannot do this. I've got a varied schedule. I'm up all night. I'm doing this. I can't set a date night every night, people. But when things weren't working well, I said, I got to do something differently. That was what was the game changer for us, I think. And that allowed our romance and that allowed intimacy to return.
Yeah. And silly things like I love dressing up. So every once in a while he'll say, all right, we're going to cook dinner tonight. This is with kids gone, of course. So you can dress up and come down and, we'll light candles and pretend that we're out somewhere fancy or whatever. It doesn't require a lot of money, but just to treat the person the way you would have when you were dating. And, it's hard because you've also seen that person brushing his teeth in his boxers that morning. So, you know what I mean? I mean, that's life, that's marriage. And so
that's right.
You have to make that effort, but it's totally worth it. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I love that. What would you say, Art?
I was just thinking how much I wanted to hear what you would say.
And I was just thinking, he's got to go first.
I don't think we've done date night well consistently.
Yeah, we have
throughout
not.
Our marriage. And I think a lot of is on me, but we have now a son who's engaged, about to be married, and they are super committed to, we're doing a date night each week, and that looks different weeks, and it's something right now in their lives that's almost never expensive at all. That I wish, looking back, I wish we had done that better. The thing that I thought of with fun and even romance a little bit is just laughing together. Yes. Like some of my best memories of us are when you were laughing so hard that you couldn't talk. Whether it was at a drive-in at McDonald's or you and I have joked at times that we'll be laying in bed just talking about stuff, and then there's this incredibly loud laughter, and that the kids are probably wondering, what does that but anyway, that just being able to laugh together, even through some pretty tough times, has been that's just been fun. That's just been fun.
Yeah, that was my top one, was just finding opportunities. And honestly, I don't even know that we looked for them. I think we were just so delirious sometimes that it happened naturally. But finding times to laugh and, whether it's a comedian we like or whatever, just to find some lightness in some of the things that we've struggled with, together with our kids or whatever. That's been huge.
And I do think we're getting better at date night.
We are.
And part of that, I think, is not needing babysitters anymore, and having kids that can drive. And so if there are younger parents listening to this, I think it does get easier in certain seasons.
Absolutely.
To be able to do that. But I think it's important in every season to do what you can.
Absolutely.
And I think, Shelley, to talk about the four of us is, I think, community and couples, because again, we can, as you have an argument and you're like, hey, are you good? Everybody's good. So, but to go out with another couple and have a good time. And certainly the Andrews and the Sneeds have done a lot of that.
Oh my gosh.
Where it's just like, hey, we just need to laugh. Can we come over?
Yeah.
And I mean, for those podcasters, I mean, literally sometimes it's 4:00 on a Saturday or Friday. Say, hey, y'all busy? Because we need to come over. Come on, and so, in our busy schedule, sometimes it's the most impromptu of, hey, come over, we laugh, we have a good time. And it takes some of the junk away. You're frustrated. It's been a tough week, but you know what? Susan's funny and I enjoy her. And it takes off some of the heat sometimes to have community around.
Sure.
That allows you to laugh, to have fun, to enjoy each other, and to enjoy your spouse in a different manner when it's not just what are we doing next? What problems coming? So that's so important.
And game night is free. So it's the
I
best
know.
of both. And the Andrews usually have ice cream. So
we do. We try. That's right.
And every time we leave after one of those nights, Shelley, I think, has a greater appreciation of me as a husband.
There's no doubt. And your
because
skills.
he's so bad.
I just want to thank you for that, Jane.
You're welcome. That is probably my greatest gift to humanity right there.
Oh, my goodness.
Going, gosh, can you imagine if you were married to that guy?
That is hilarious. All right. So you mentioned the empty nester. Has there been anything about it that was harder? You can tell us what's been great about it. Nothing hard about it?
No, I mean, I thought about it. The honest to hardness has been the parenting aspect, and that's a whole different podcast, I think, of
parenting adult kids.
How do you deal with kids outside?
Sure.
And then our boys have girlfriends and fiancés, and just what do you say? When are you a parent, and when do you just have to keep your mouth shut? And that for me has by far been the hardest part of empty nesting, is letting them be men and make good decisions and not so good decisions, and just being there when they need me, but also it's their life and they're very different than I am. So that's probably the hardest part. Emptiness. I mean, the funny part is we battled for date night. I mean, we had to scratch and claw to make sure we kept it and had time together and had time for each other. And the first time they were gone, we're like, hey, whoa, it's Monday night's date night and Tuesday night's date night and Wednesday night's date night, because we're the only ones here at the table, And so
that's the best part.
And just and back to the date night during the tougher times, and just even the kids, is just continuing to connect, so that when they were gone, we had the connection and we had the love and the grace and the fun to go, hey, this is really cool. We don't want to tell anybody. And until you get there, you sound like a selfish person to go, I'm sorry, but it's really good. I love being a dad, love parenting, but man, it's fun to reconnect and to, the bride of my youth, and to just enjoy her and have more time for her and have more energy for her and all those things. So that's been a lot of fun.
And you asked about what's difficult. One of the things that we realize is that it's funny now, after 30 years, we're selfish together. Like, we would like to just stay home and just do our thing.
You would like the Sneaks to not show up at your house on a Saturday.
No, we love you guys. But seriously, like younger couples, we want to pour into them, or whatever it might be, to fight that urge to just stay here and enjoy the fact that it's just us. And when our kids say, hey, we want to come see you and we're going to bring 8 friends, and we're like, oh, that'll be great. And it is. And of course, we're so glad when they come, but to recognize that that's what it is. It's just a different form of selfishness that we're in it together.
Yeah, so. Sure. And even though we're not empty nesters yet, just having kids now that can stay at home by themselves, I have loved the spontaneity. Like, we've never been able to have that before. So it'll be like, I don't remember. I think Art was picking me up the other night. He's like, hey, let's go look at pickleball rackets. I'm like, hey, you want to get a movie? Like, we've just never been able to do that before. And it's a whole new season.
The lights at the end of the tunnel.
That's
right.
It is.
It's not another train. That's right.
It is not a train. It's good.
So
it's worth fighting for.
If you could give one piece of encouragement, maybe to a listener who is struggling, who's frustrated in their marriage. I know I've had listeners even, let me know different things that they're experiencing. A lot of them are in our seasons of life. What is one piece of encouragement that you might give them that we haven't mentioned already?
This is more of a warning maybe, but don't complain about your husband to other people, as hard as it is. I mean, if you've got like a really close sister type that you can, commiserate with, and she's going to point you back to God, that's okay. But don't complain about them. Don't, for heaven's sakes, don't go to your parents and complain, because they'll never forget or forgive. But to if you're going to get counseling, to talk about things, get a Christian counselor. Don't get someone who's going to give you the worldly view of, hey, you deserve better, and you can go out and whatever, because that sounds like it's what you want to hear, but it isn't.
Right. That's good.
I mean, the biggest thing I can tell you is it's worth it. Stay in the fight, and that's ultimately true of our relationship with the Lord, right? Because there's sometimes like, Lord, are you even there? Do you even hear me? Is it my prayers just going to the ceiling? Man, this is crazy. I just don't. And you persevere and you trust in the Lord and you trust in His faithfulness and you look back and I know you were faithful there, but what about today? And so that's the bigger picture. But in marriage, to sit back and say, to look at the 30 years. There's just nothing sweeter. Statistics will say, those that feel like they want to get a divorce, if they'll hang in there 5 years later, like 87% are glad they didn't do it because, in the midst of that depth of darkness, if you hang in there and just take one day at a time, just take one day at a time, that when you can look back, you see God's hand, you see the grace and the mercy in your own life. You see how you have been radically changed from who you were to who you are now, much less the union of the two of you and how different you are and how differently you see life. And for me, it was just an influx of grace and understanding God's grace, which I probably would not have understood in any other aspect of life. But God showed me incredible grace in my personal life and in our marriage. And then that's given me incredible grace for others that are going through similar difficulties and struggles.
Yeah.
It's worth it. Hang
That's
in there.
good. That's good. That's right.
Yeah, I think I would share that even good marriages, even most good marriages are really hard.
Yes.
You hear the statistic, 50% of marriages end up in divorce, and everyone figures, well, that's because those were hard. But of the ones that remain together, whatever that number is, I would bet that the majority of those, the vast majority of those, have times where they are really, really hard. And the reason I say that is because I know the couples that we know the best, their marriages have had really, really hard seasons. And they've let us see that, and we've let them see it. There are lots of people out there who, may look at what's our family on Facebook or just what they see and think, man, how do they have it all together? And if they only could see behind the scenes. And so of the people that we've been blessed to get to know and see behind the scenes, it has been a blessing to see that it's been hard, that we're not doing it wrong. We're doing things that are wrong, that the Holy Spirit is going to continue to mold and change us over time. But just because it's hard doesn't mean you're doing it wrong.
Yes.
So I guess to echo what James said, stay in the fight. I would just say it's going to be hard. Lean into the hard. Lean into it. One of the greatest compliments that I've ever gotten. Shelly was our oldest son. One night he came up and it had been a rough day for other reasons, but I just remember him saying, I really respect that you two lean into hard. And
and what a great example for him to know
that meant a lot.
That it's, of course, that's great.
And everything in the world, art tells us, whether it's marriage or, if it's hard, then you're not doing it right. Or if it's hard, then run the other way. And that is not the life that is played out in Scripture, never. And, as we follow Christ, tell me what was easy about His life.
Sure.
And yet the world tells you if it's hard, back away. And so I love that. What a beautiful word and what a beautiful compliment. And lean into hard, because it is difficult to follow Christ, and marriage is part of that.
Yeah.
It can be part of it.
And I just to piggyback on what you were saying too, I feel like authenticity is so important in our communities and our community groups. And I think that's why I struggled so long thinking, I mean, we were jacked up. We had some issues, but I also think I thought we were a lot more hopeless than we were because I didn't know anyone else was struggling. So just when you can find, and sometimes you have to be that couple that's willing in your small group to go, this has been a rough week for us. To find that authenticity and be in a group where that is encouraged is huge, because that's when that just kind of what Art was saying, you're not, or what he wasn't saying is knowing you're not alone in that. I would say for me, the one piece of encouragement I would give, and I'm still learning it, is that prayer is more powerful than anything I can say to my spouse or connive or try to come up with. Because I've tried it both ways. I have tried to let him know what he needs to do different. I've tried to get other people to tell him. But the times that I have just prayed is when I've seen God do amazing things. And he doesn't just do amazing things in art. He starts going, hey,
Yes.
let's work on this in you. Maybe you're part of this problem, So I'm really trying hard to not even react to things, because I mentioned earlier about the emails I used to send him. I would just send in this long email where I processed everything. And literally by the time I sent send, I felt great. Like that was like therapeutic. And then Art's like, oh my gosh, and I'm getting these at work, and but I have found even before I communicate with him about something, what if I pray first? God, I want whatever comes out of my mouth, because there are things in my heart I don't even know are there that might be wrong, and I want that to be, I want to be coming from a place of submission to God first. So, yeah.
That reminds me of what I said earlier about being on this end now over time, seeing how often I was wrong. Also, I can point to things that I know you prayed through, like, and that changed. And every once in a while now I have when we disagree, I just, sometimes I'll think to myself, well, she's just going to pray about it, and then it's going to end up she's right, and so let's do it.
Might as well do it her way.
Yeah. So.
And Shelley, I say it a different way of just that I'm not Susan's Holy Spirit. And I say that only through a hard lesson of thinking, man, if I just say this the right way or show her the scripture here, it's got to be obvious to her. But you're right. As I pray, the Lord's like, hey, buddy, how about you? I'm like, no, we're talking about me. We're talking about Susan. And so, just the change there, but also seeing what God's done in Susan's life over 30 years would have been better than any plan I had 10 years into marriage of, man, if she just do this, and just watching God do what only God can do. And the only way I could release that was say, Lord, she's yours. You love her more than I do. Remove me from this situation. But I'd pray for her in a loving way that he would do what he could do in her, and that I would allow that and not be a hindrance to it. And so and then looking back, man, wow, what God's done in our life, in our marriage, and in her life is phenomenal. In my life too.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, I just want to thank you guys again for being here, for being real, for all it took to get our technology working to have this conversation. But we do appreciate your friendship, just the way we have been able to challenge each other and steer each other on in our faith, which has translated to our marriages and our parenting and everything else. So thank you so much.
And also encourage. I just think the word encourage each other. I mean, y'all have been such an encouragement to us, and
love you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Art and I had dinner, I think it was last Friday night, and just again to reflect back on 25 years of relationship. Since I've been married 29, but just what a sweet gift that is true, deep, authentic biblical friendship, and getting back to the community
absolutely.
part. As a couple, dive into community, and not the gossip community, but the ones that will find the people that are truly vulnerable, find the people that are actively seeking the Lord and are truly vulnerable and and jump in there, because again, through the years, it is just so sweet to see how God has lifted you up, and had a game night, and had a phone call, and had a text, and had a get together of the people that he has placed. And man, God does some amazing work through others in the church. So
that's right. That's right.
Love that.
All right. Thank you again for being on UnPerfect, and maybe we'll do this again in a year or so. See if anything's
Art
changed.
did really well. He said some nice stuff. I think you should try him again.
Seriously, I like that Art guy. I'd like to hear
that. Chance. And if you ever meet a young couple and you think, man, I could see us getting along with them, and then you go over there on July 4th and the husband is dancing around with sparklers, and you think to yourself, I don't know that I could ever be his friend. Give them a chance.
Come on, you loved that.
Give them a chance.
That's so sweet.
Those are great words of wisdom.
Because someday he might make peach homemade ice cream.
There you go. It's all about the peach ice cream. I pray that you were challenged and encouraged by our honest conversation. challenged to make communication a priority, compromising on how you both need to manage and resolve conflict in terms of timing and processing, and that you truly will harness the power of praying for your spouse, along with being open to how God wants to change you in the process. And how about romance? Are you making dates a priority? As you heard, this is one Art and I need to work on doing more consistently. And are you part of an honest and open community of other couples who walk the road of marriage together? I promise they exist. Sometimes we have to be the ones to initiate it and seek it out. If you've got some creative ideas on keeping romance alive in your marriage or navigating conflict or any of the things we've talked about, shoot them to me. I would love to hear some new ones and even share them with my subscribers. If you enjoyed this episode of UnPerfect, would you do me the honor of leaving a quick rating and review so that other unperfect people like us can find the podcast? Thanks in advance for the gift of your words. As always, I'm praying you are able to see glimpses of God's glory in your life and even in your marriage this week, in the now and the not yet of your unperfect life. See you next time.